Hello, welcome to SBD Arms. Today we are going to be covering the disassembly, inspection, reassembly, and lubrication of the bolt and bolt carrier of the AR-15. For disassembly, first thing you're going to have to do is remove the cotter pin or firing pin retaining pin. Simply pulls out. In order to get the firing pin, you either tilt it upside down or you might have to give it a light wrap if there's enough debris on the inside to keep it from falling out. The bolt cam pin is rectangular in shape and can only be pulled out one way. By rotating it 1/4 turn, the bolt cam pin can then be lifted out. Once that is out, you can remove the bolt head, and that is pretty much the complete disassembly of the bolt carrier. For further disassembly of the bolt, the extractor, the ejector is that little round spring-loaded plunger. The extractor spring, which lies up underneath the rear portion of this, sometimes wears out. If there is too much play in your extractor and you can move it easily with your thumb, it's time for replacement. In order to replace the extractor spring, this drift pin must be taken out, and it's quite simple. If you put pressure on the back of the extractor, you can use your firing pin or any other punch to help pull that out. Once you take the extractor out, you can see the extractor spring. This one has a little rubber O-ring and has a plastic insert. These are both to help prolong the life of the spring. Just take the spring out of the extractor and put a new one in. For reassembly, it's just the opposite. Put pressure on the back of the extractor again, and you can put that pin in either direction. Making sure that that pin is in far enough equally as to not rub or fall out. On the bolt head also are the gas rings. There's an opening per ring, and just like the rings of a piston of a car, if those gaps line up, you lose compression and your bolt or piston will not work. So when reassembly, make sure that all three of these gaps are far away from each other. If you notice one that is cracked or missing, replacement is necessary. A lot of carbon builds up on the shoulder portion of the bolt, and that can easily be taken care of by a pocket knife, a scraper tool. You won't harm the bolt just by scraping, or you can even use the firing pin to scrape the carbon off. On the bolt carrier, one of the things to inspect for are the carrier retaining screws. If you notice, they are heavily staked by the dimples. This staking keeps those bolt heads from becoming loose and falling out. So just make sure that those are still properly tight. If you have any wobble in your gas key, you can lose again compression and your bolt will not function properly. For reassembly, simply put the bolt into the bolt carrier, assuring that the extractor and the ejector are indexed properly. If you have a right-hand bolt or right-hand rifle, you want to make sure that the extractor is facing to the right. If for any reason you have this rotated incorrectly, the cam pin will not fit, you must rotate the bolt so that the cam pin will fit in properly. Rotating the cam pin again 1/4 turn and extending the bolt, you notice that the cam pin rotates into position. To install the firing pin, it's best recommended that if you cover all the openings on the side of the bolt carrier with your hand, simply dropping the firing pin into the bolt carrier, and the firing pin will find where it needs to go. Reinserting the cotter pin can sometimes be tricky. And there you have it. We have a complete and inspected bolt. For lubrication, it's best to apply lubrication on the raised areas or anywhere where you might see shiny silver if you have a black bolt. Anywhere where there is friction are the areas in which you want to apply lube. And on the bottom of the bolt, this is where it rides upon the cartridges feeding from the magazine. If your bolt head travels in and out properly, you now have a completed bolt.